I have photographed for as long as I can remember. As a child, I would spend hours documenting our family farm in Devon. From the changing seasons, wildlife encounters and family portraits, it became a tool for documenting and collecting formative childhood experiences and storing memories. Growing up on a farm has nurtured a passion for supporting the natural environment, as many farmers understand the importance of working alongside nature to increase biodiversity. I turned to photography to document the positive effects of a more sustainable farming practice. My motivation for completing the MA was to share my love and appreciation of the environment. I wanted to explore how the medium of photography can be used to portray engaging environmental stories, to raise awareness of issues but also promote what can be done in support of biodiversity. I began by documenting a 6-acre meadow on our farm, which has been handed back to nature, a place where nature was thriving alongside the worked landscape. I combined atmospheric landscape and audio to encourage an immersive viewing experience, to invite contemplation and foster a connection to the natural world. Whilst I found the geographical restraint helpful in nurturing my creative process, I felt conflicted. I couldn't help but feel this meadow represented an idyllic fragment which didn't wholly represent the true complexities of managing a productive farm. I began to experiment with creative methods such as intentional camera movement and multiple exposure to interpret a scene as opposed to presenting a literal representation, encouraging an emotional response through light, colour and form. Extending my focus beyond the farm, I chose to research the rainforests of Dartmoor, considering how landscape photography can be used to inform and engage an audience, to promote a connection to nature, taking much influence from author Liz Wells. Influenced by photographer Jem Southern, I began to adopt a slower approach when creating my images. I chose to use a tripod to enforce a slower pace of practice, which enabled me to be fully present within the environment, to absorb the identity of a place and allow it to impress upon me over a period of solitude. I chose to include areas of darkness and multi-layer exposures to create visual disturbance within the images. I tried to encourage an emotional response by building layers with light and colour, challenging the viewing experience. During the research phase of this project, I liaised with several local charities. It became clear that by working collectively within the local community to protect these precious places, we are not only supporting the environment, but also our own mental well-being by restoring our connection to nature. An exceptionally wet winter restricted my photo-taking opportunities, and I found myself using my newly developed methodology to document our farm in between the showers. After coming across my grandfather's camera, which was lightly used back in the 1970s, I explored the use of photographic film, which supported this slower pace of practice. I felt a greater value in each photograph, absorbing the environment, waiting for the light to change, or simply walking away without a photograph if the conditions didn't align. However, I couldn't justify the long-term expense and environmental impact of using and developing film when I already had a perfectly capable digital camera setup. In support of creating a clear visual coherence within my work, I introduced several self-imposed restrictions, working in black and white and using a single focal length. Simplifying the method encouraged a heightened awareness of the environment and allowed my work to develop more instinctively. In recent months, I've been inspired by the work of Robert Darch, whose ambiguous, half-told narratives allow the viewer to project their own memories and experience onto a photograph. There is an element of questionable truth which isn't open to interpretation. The intention of this farming life was to present an emotional response of personal observations of the work landscape, exploring how time and life are woven through the land, raising questions of belonging and alluding to the uncertain future of farming through the ambiguous inclusion of human presence. Moving on to my FMP, I've decided to revisit an earlier project focusing on the temperate rainforests of Dartmoor. Author and campaigner Guy Shrubsole has been pivotal in boosting public engagement of these unique habitats, and my initial research brought to light the work of numerous charities working together to reforest Dartmoor. I was especially drawn to the work of More Trees, who were involved in restoring native broadleaf woodland. They collect seeds from native species and were notably granted access by the Duchy of Cornwall to collect from Wistman's Woods as part of the regeneration of this rare habitat. I have attended several volunteer days with More Trees to support my own research into woodland creation, and they have been very receptive to documenting the work that they do. There is a wonderful sense of community, and I've been interested to learn about the volunteers and their reasons for supporting this charity. Alongside my MA submissions, I've been working on a personal project researching the 1944 evacuation of my grandparents from their farm in Slapton, as the area was requisitioned by the US Army as a training ground for the D-Day landings. They had just 6 weeks to relocate. I feel this project has the potential to form a rich tapestry of archival material, personal accounts and rephotography, which would promote creativity as I enter the final chapter of my MA, but the geographical distance would not be practical within the restricted timescale.